And 5, 4, 3. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beyond the Frame. My name is Jay Nephew, and I'll be your host for today's session. You know, our goal at Beyond the Frame is to provide you with content that you can use, whether for when you're a business operator. Best practices for today's operators are subtitle, and that holds true for bowling centers, entertainment venues, restaurants. And today's topic is really, it's just a gem, right? Because no matter what business you're in, you can always use a positive frame of mind. And today we have with us author Bob Klatt. Thank you, Bob, for joining us today.
Jay, it's a pleasure to be here. And I just want to quickly comment that I think you and Dowdy do a fabulous job bringing value to the bowling industry. I think facilitating networking and sharing of best practices is very wise. So keep up the great work.
Well, thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate that. You know, I want to talk to you about your book that you wrote, Klattitude, and it's called, the subtitle is An Inspirational Guide to Striking a Positive Frame of Mind. I met you, how many years ago was this? A long time now, probably 7 or 8 or so years ago. We're not going to date ourselves, but it's been a while. And you gave me this book and you autographed it for me. And I read through it when you gave it to me. And there were so many beautiful things in there that I didn't take to heart. I didn't understand them at the time. I didn't let them resonate with me. And about 6 or 8 months ago, I grabbed this book and I started looking through it again. And, you know, given our current time frame and what we've been dealing with both as a nation and as a culture and with the pandemic, it made me stop and think about some things. Bob, tell me why you wrote this book, first of all.
Well, I'm glad you still have the book. That's fantastic. Even before we get into that, I want to make a comment right away that the cover of the book, if you notice, you got in the background, it's got the smiley face. We wanted Nancy Shank's smile, but her $1 million smile wasn't affordable.
You're
so
right?
I couldn't go to her to get that. And the Walmart people, I just haven't heard back from them yet. So why write the book? It's all about motivation and applying energy. And back in high school, I didn't do well in high school. I didn't appreciate education at that time, but an English professor or teacher would not allow me to write sports articles for the local school newspaper. And I vowed walking out the door one day to her, I said, I'm going to write a book someday. I'm going to prove it to you that I can write. And that's always was in the back of my mind and heart. And it became a bucket list item. And then when I was doing a bowling team building event with 20 nursing home workers, at the end of the 2-hour bowling session, one of the ladies came up to me and she basically, which is right on page 1 of the book, she said, my son died a couple of years ago, and today's event made me realize that I need to change my attitude to change my life. And that demonstrated to me that my Bowler Bob's 10 frames to get your life on a roll concept, the content was good. So I began the next 2 years just taking the time. It's really going to be called Pinspiration, but Roger Dalkin beat me to that with his book. So we went with a more personalized approach and called it Klattitude.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, when you look at the table of contents on this book, and I've shared this on your book page, if you search Facebook for Klattitude, you'll see a page with the images, and you can order the book there. It's really very inexpensive. This table of contents reads to me like the way you would go through life. A game of bowling is very interestingly familiar to a path in life, right? First of all, each of the chapters is not called a chapter, it's called a frame, which I love. And then you've got different sections in here. And the very first frame is your approach determines your outcome. But that is so true. Before you start anything, your approach does determine your outcome, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it's really a mindset. And I think that that's part of what Klattitude really begins with, is the mindset that we have. And let's face it, we all have from time to time negativity that creeps into our minds, or things happen and we just take a turn for negativity. It's life. We're human beings. I had one of my dear friends, Mike Hankey, on my bowling team. He read the book and he came up with a cliche. He said, you know, Klattitude is not a platitude, but it's a real attitude that all dudes should exude. And so that's kind of, it's funny, but the whole point is it's a mindset. It's the ability to manage your mindset when we have setbacks. And that's what bowling is. It's a game of 10 frames. You bowl one frame and you could have a setback, and then you've got to dust it off and forget about it and move on to life's next frame.
And with the bowler's mentality, so often it's the third frame and we went strike, strike, big 4-1, and we're already done. We just checked out. We can't win. We don't believe, like it's the end of the world. We all know that that's not the right way to behave or the right way to think, because it does no justice to you. But what about in real life? In real life, how many four-baggers have you had and then followed it up with a Greek church and then said, oh, I'm done. I gotta go. I just lost my job. I might as well just, end it all right now because it's just terrible. But that's not how we deal with life either. In life, we don't get to have the frame analogy. In life, the next day comes, we get up, we pull up our shoes. Some of us take longer than others because maybe we're more depressed, or maybe we're really affected deeper by some of the situations. But at the end of the day, we have to move forward, right? That's what we do in life. That's how we change. That's how we grow. That's how we bounce back. So I find it very comforting that you've broken this book down into 10 frames, and that each frame as we go along is like a path, a journey that you've taken. And you can build on each of the previous frames knowledge to take yourself to another level.
The book really serves as bumpers for people. It helps us to get us to keep us on the lane and bounce us back. And attitude's an interesting topic, and that's part of the fun of calling it Klattitude, because I had people say that to me, hey, how's your Klattitude today? Because I was always kind of an up and energetic, and like you, an energetic person. And not everybody's like that. And it doesn't mean you have to be that way. But I think we have the capacity within us to be that way. And branding it that way was just part of the fun of it. But really, nobody likes to talk necessarily about attitude, right? But if you think about it, what's the means to have a positive attitude? You just can't think, well, I'm going to be positive and magically it happens. It takes work. And really, it's within our control. And I'll give you a quick thought process example. I'm going to hold this up here. I've got a glass, and what is it? Is it
half full?
Is it half full, or is it half empty? Or
well, it's both, really.
But it doesn't matter, because what matters is what's in it. Is what's in it good for us? And that's the point.
Vodka's good at most times of the day, yes.
I'm a Malibu rum guy myself. Exactly. And sometimes you have to take that medication in moderation. But the point is that we can manage what we put in the glass. We can manage what goes on between your ears. And sometimes it takes a little more cognizance. We have to catch ourselves. And sometimes it's not good to suppress negativity or frustration either. Sometimes you do have to vent, and you got to get it out too. You've got to be real, because penting it up isn't a good idea either. So I'm not suggesting that. And everybody's different, but just really the idea to see opportunities to, in my mind, outwardly be a blessing to other people and create positive experiences. One of the things, my full name is Robert Allen Klatt, and the initials RAK also stand for Random Acts of Kindness, which is another tricky, cleverly thing in the book. And one of the things that I do in my life is cognizantly, I live intentionally to try and find opportunities to boost people up, to lift people up, to do a surprising favor for them that they didn't expect, to recognize something that they're doing. And by doing those things, I take my mind away from negativity, or I distract myself from what I could be focusing on, the negative, and creating positive experiences for other people. And by doing that, the self-help book this is, you might want to start as a means by trying to help other people, and you'll be fulfilled by doing that, and you'll feel good about that, and that'll help your positive attitude.
That it's so true. When you take an attitude of, like you said, and you live an intentional, purposeful life, making deliberate decisions to go out of your way to do random acts of kindness when you see them appropriately able to be done. And what does it do? It really makes you feel good about yourself to help other people feel good about themselves, right? And what kind of therapy is that? Like, every counselor in the world will tell you that's the best way to start, right? I love this frame 5, because here we go. Your approach determines your outcome. You want to be the ball in frame 2. You want to aim to please, choose a better target, and be remarkable. So, that makes sense. Don't just aim, choose the right target to aim at. Be a role model. You're a role player. But then frame 5, halfway through, roll with the changes. What happens in life when we get a curveball or a gutter ball thrown at us? We do have to roll with the changes, don't we? And if you are unwilling to or unable to recognize that you need to do that, you're already at a disadvantage. So living consciously, living with intention, and saying, I'm going to catch these times where I need to recognize that it might not be the best for me, but how can I take what's there and get the best out of it?
Well, and bowling teaches that. Bowling, and again, you and I, I'm no longer a competitive bowler, and I know you're a great bowler. But for those that have a good comprehension or really understand the intricacies of lane patterns, lane conditions, and how lanes change, as you bowl, it's a long tournament, and the lanes are changing throughout the day. And you've got to migrate. You've got to move your feet. You've got to make adjustments. You might make hand adjustments, technique adjustments. You're going to move your feet. You may switch balls, which, I mean, it's a new ball world today. But all those things teach us. I mean, but those things teach us to make adjustments, to adapt to changing conditions. And so bowling is great for teaching people that, and then mastering that is even better. So, and we're in a changing world. We're in a forever evolving world. And we ourselves need to evolve. And I like the idea of don't stand in one spot and kill the grass. You got to move your feet. Plus, that gives you a different perspective on things. And you can look at a different angle and a different area to play in the lane. And same thing with life. I mean, it just helps you grow personally and professionally when you look for opportunities to be challenged.
I have so many pages tagged in this book. I really could talk to you for hours about it, right? My favorite quote, you pointed this out to me the other day when we were chatting. You said on page 60 of the book, I'm going to give a little bit of it away. You have a little saying at the bottom. A grumpy man came up to the bowling counter to pay for his games. I said, that'll be $12, please. He gave me a $20 bill. I said, thank you. And I put the bill in the drawer and closed the drawer. He said, where's my change? And I told him, change comes from within. Tell us about that story, because that is somewhat a true story, is it not?
It's a very true story. I won't name names, but this gentleman was a league bowler, league secretary, and he came in every Tuesday and Thursday around noon to practice. And thankfully in our center that day, we had 32 lanes of kids in there bowling, and there was potato chip wrappers and candy bar wrappers and pop cans all over the place. We didn't have time to get cleaned up for anybody that would walk in after they left. And the rental shoes are scattered on the counter, and good business for us. But now we've got a scratch bowler that wants to come in, and he wants a fresh pair. And I wasn't able to deliver on that promise. So we put him down right in front of the bowling desk, and I gave him a couple of pointers beforehand. I said, maybe you want to try playing the lanes this way today. And he wouldn't have it. And I could tell already he was in a bad mood from when he walked in because we didn't meet his expectations. But and at the end, he wasn't happy, and I just had a little fun with him. And so I lost a customer. No, I'm just kidding. He got the joke. He got the joke.
That's nice. I want to say hi to our people watching us live today. Rosa and Dottie are watching, and they both commented that, mindset, yes, is right. And such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Dottie said, mindset is everything, and having a positive attitude makes all the difference in the world. That's something I've learned from Dottie. Dottie is one of the most positive people I know, and she has finally rubbed off on me after all these years of working together, much to her chagrin, right? This is another frame, 7th frame. We're now 3/4 of the way through the book. And then the title of this frame is Reframe Your Brain, Adjust Your Angle. What happens in life if you're not getting out of it what you really want, or maybe you don't even know what you want? How do you adjust your angle in life? Give us a little background on that.
Well, you're testing me because I don't remember if this is the exact spot in the book where I have this, but one of the things in the master's degree program that I learned, in fact, it was probably the best thing that I learned. They taught a 4-step problem-solving approach. Now, if that's not in this chapter, forgive me for that, but it's still valuable information. Whenever you encounter a problem, before you react, ask yourself, how did I contribute to this problem? And then pause, and then ask yourself 4 more questions, or 3 more questions. What did I do to contribute to this problem? What didn't I do? And what will I do? And the whole process of that is to hit that pause button on your keyboard before something rolls off of your tongue that you don't want to, that you can't get back, and really rethink things. And sometimes it may not really be your problem, but you can still offer to the world being a problem solver by having a more of a peace of mind and getting a collective thought process on something instead of reacting. So slowing that down. In fact, my wife, Christy, she knows it because I've said it enough times to her, and then all at once I'll get caught on it too, Something happens. Well, how did you contribute to that problem? Problem-solving mode, and it gets me in the right temperament to solve problems. It's easier to solve problems when you have an open, peaceful, and creative mind versus a frustrated mind. So change your angle on the problem. Change your angle on the problem.
And then what is a bobstacle?
Obstacles are, it's us, it's who we are. We're in the way of being positive. It's yourself. It's no different than Klattitude. It's, you call it what you want, Jay. You call it when you realize you're in the way of making your own change, it's because you're in the way of something else. And it's something you have to deal and address, and that becomes your obstacle. And you've got to either, you can accept it, alter it, or avoid it. You've got to figure out a way to get around it. And some people choose not to make it better. And my job, I have to accept that. Some people don't want to improve, and that's okay too. They don't have to all meet my standards. I get that. And some people have more capacity than others to make some change in life. But the obstacle is really just, it's internalizing and looking at yourself and realizing what's in my way of me making a change for the positive.
Great. Walter Harrison's on, he's watching. He says, with all the negative going on in the world, the one positive thing we can always remember is God blessed us with the opportunity to have life. So always live it happy and positive, and always treat others as you would want to be treated. Love the message. Thank you. Walter, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate that comment. I agree. Bob, you talk about a game of second chances in the next chapter, which is, I believe, entitled A Game of Second Chances, right? No, fill your world with second chances. And you talk about bowling as a game of second chances, but so is life. And how do they marry together like that?
Well, first, thanks, Walter. And I want to share this with you. I got this from a rental car. This is in the book. A rental car guy down in Kansas City. I walked up to get my car, and I said, or I walked up and I gave him the name, and I said, "How you doing?" And he goes, "Blessed, sir. I'm blessed." And so I use that now. "How you doing today?" "I'm blessed." More blessed than, he said, "More blessed than I deserve," is what he said.
Oh,
and
very nice.
So now I've adopted that, and more often than not, I'll say that. And it's not disingenuous, but there's a little bit of programming going on here too. I've got to program myself to think positively, and that's one way to do it. So, "How are you doing today?" "Well, I'm more blessed than I deserve." And usually it'll get a smile out of people. Try it sometime. It definitely works. As far as the bowling game, bowling is a game of forgiveness. You can make an error in one frame and you move on to life's next frame. And life is really that way. Life is just a series of frames that we're living, snapshots throughout our life. But we can't live in the same frame. We can't look back and regret on past frames, and we shouldn't dread future frames. Like if it's a tough task we got to accomplish and we want to put it off, we've got to go after it. But we need to stay in the present and focus on the present to make the most of today. Tomorrow will be here soon enough. Let's make the most out of today. Forgiving life, I think, is good. Being willing to forgive others and willing to forgive ourselves. And like the game of bowling allows us to, forgive that frame. I made a mistake. I flagged the 10 pin. I hit it too hard and got a 7-10 split. I'm going on to the next frame. I can recover from that. I can bounce back.
Yeah, so many times in bowling, we tell everybody this, all new bowlers, you even have to tell people who've been bowling for 20 years, look, you're not defined by that 130 you just bowled. Thank God, because I've done that 3 tournaments in a row. I started with 130 or 150. And you know what? I made the cut at the last one when I started with 150 because I realized, and I've always kind of realized this, but I said to myself, it doesn't matter. The 150 doesn't matter. I know I can come back and shoot 220, 230, make some of that up. The scores are low, but I could have just as easily sat down in the chair and said, oh, this is over. And I've done that in my own life so many times. And instead, I've decided more in the recent life to say, it's not over. I'm just going to bounce back from that. I'm going to change my angle, reframe my brain, and try something different. So that is, that feeling, right, Walter? That is absolutely true with life in general.
Jay, if I can add one thing.
Please.
In those instances, which I've learned too, I've had many tournaments that I've wasted because I let my attitude, ruin a day. That's what the reset button is for. And we have an internal reset button. And if we can reset our goals, hey, everything's changed. Maybe we've had a bad start. I've got to just compartmentalize this down to the first. I got to lug my balls down to the next pair, and I got to get up and I got to regroup and I got to start. Let's reset the goals and let's start over. And the goals are small. We got to make them smaller, more manageable. Don't worry that I'm 70 under. Let's start with a clean frame and then start that way. So it's just resetting. And a lot of it, truthfully, is self-talk. And we've got to play defense. Bowling does have a defense, and that's playing defense with yourself. You're competing with your self-talk.
How many times have you bowled a tournament and been crossing with someone and they'll throw the shot and they'll come back and they'll go, you blah, 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 blanking idiot, blah, blah, and they're talking to themselves. And I'm like, what does that do for you? that doesn't motivate you. That's filling your head with negative energy. Like, why would you treat yourself that way? If I started shouting that at you, wouldn't you just punch me in the face, you know? Like, so why do you shout that at yourself? You're not doing any service to yourself by having that mentality, I would say. Ninth frame, we're almost done with this particular game. And you say, it's all in your delivery. And I say, you know what, you're right. But here's what this quote in this chapter says, and I'm going to give some more away. Y'all going to buy the book anyway, right? Just click on the link and you'll see. It's $14.95 and it's free shipping. So we spent $15 on 2 cups of coffee and a donut before. I'm sure you can spend $15 to help yourself. But this is the quote. If you wait to do everything until you're sure it's right, you'll probably never do much of anything. And that's by Win Borden. Now, this I personally resonate with because I am so much of a perfectionist at times, and my boss is watching, so she's probably going to comment, yup, nodding her head. I get paralyzed often by wanting everything to be so perfect that I end up doing nothing instead of doing something that's good enough. Maybe it's not the best, but it's good enough. And you or I or somebody else on the outside looking in would go, wow, that's pretty good. And I sitting on the inside go, oh, it's terrible. I missed this. I didn't do that. I wanted it to look like this. You know, we've done this. I mean, I've done this throughout my entire life. And changing your frame of mind to accept that what you're putting out doesn't have to be at your highest standard, but it has to be at the standards that everyone's expecting is different, right?
When I pray at night, I pray in the morning. I have a couple of daily prayers that I recite. And one thing I ask for is that I just pray that I can give my best. Just give my best. And that may not be good enough that day for something else, but I know that I can walk away at peace that, you know what, I gave it all I had. And I guess I want to encourage people out there, especially in these times when we're forced to innovate and reimagine things and the world's going to be different. Sit down and figure out something that you've wanted to do or chase in life. Make a short list, make something that's halfway achievable, surround yourself with people that want to support that, and take a shot, because life is short. And you know, you can't do something too soon if life is short, right? So,
you cannot.
So get after that.
Karen Yost, she says hi, and she says, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Very true, Karen, absolutely true. Start with page 1, Rosa says to me, just give your best. That's exactly right, Bob. Okay, 10th frame. What is the title of the 10th frame? Let the good times roll. Isn't that what life is about? Let the good times roll. Enjoy that when it's happening. Don't focus on anything else. Be present. Bob, your turn.
Just everybody out there, have fun. And I have to remind myself of that too. Sometimes I get involved in my work and things don't go my way or the way I want them to. And I forget that I've got oxygen. I'm alive. There's people with terminal cancer. There's people with a lot of health problems. People that have lost their life. I just got to enjoy the moment. Live in the moment. Enjoy the moment. Be a good steward of what we have and be thankful for what we have. But just enjoy yourself too. Try to find ways just to be happy.
I'm going to say this last thing. It's in the end of your book. At the reach out and trust yourself was the last part. It says, whether you're playing a sport, a game, or anything in life for that matter, you'll always miss 100% of the shots that you never take. Keep that in mind. Bob Klatt, thank you so much for being our guest today. The book is called Klattitude. You can get your copy on eBay, or if you search Facebook, just start typing in Klattitude. You'll see the Klattitude book page, and there's a link that'll take you to eBay to buy the book. Like I said, $14.95, free shipping. Bob, and if you send him a little note, maybe he'll even autograph it for you. We're going to give a copy of Klattitude away, an autographed signed copy by Bob, to one of our viewers today. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you'd like to win the signed book here, all you have to do is take this post when it's up, share it to your timeline, share it to a group, and then comment below here, shared, and we'll choose a winner randomly from those people who've shared the book, and we'll get this out to you soon. Bob Klatt, you have made my day, you've made my month, and you've certainly made so many other people's lives better by just practicing your random acts of kindness. I thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity today, and let God rule your heart like an umpire. He may call you out at first, but if you keep the faith, he'll call you safe at home. Everybody be safe out there. Thank you. Thanks, Jay.
You are so welcome. Thank you, Bob. For those of you watching, next week we'll have our webinar on the future of competitive bowling. I'll also be chatting with Jeff Riggles on Tuesday. So join Beyond the Frame and our Cubica AMF webinar series. I'm Jay Nephew on behalf of Cubica AMF and Bob Klatt. We thank you for joining us today. Have a great day.